One fire in the morning, warmth until midnight, no electricity, no gas lines, no thermostat, no constant refueling. While modern heating systems cycle on and off every few minutes, burning fuel continuously just to maintain temperature. Families during World War II heated their homes with a single fire that kept rooms comfortable for 24 hours straight. Their secret wasn't magic or unlimited fuel. In fact, they had far less fuel than we do today. Their secret was thermal mass, the simple physics principle that modern heating has completely abandoned. Your metal stove gets blazing hot, heats the room for 2 hours, then goes cold. Their brick ovens absorbed that same heat into thousands of pounds of masonry, then released it slowly throughout the entire day and night. Same fire, same fuel. But one keeps you warm for 2 hours, while the other keeps you warm for 24. The difference is physics that modern heating forgot. Number 1. The wartime heating crisis, World War. 2. Created heating emergencies across every combatant nation that forced families to rediscover what their grandparents already knew. Coal, oil, and natural gas all went to military and industrial production first, leaving civilian populations with fractions of their normal fuel allocations. The Ministry of Fuel and Power in Britain implemented strict coal rationing throughout the war, and average households received nowhere near enough fuel to heat their homes using conventional methods. Germany faced even worse conditions as Allied bombing disrupted coal production and distribution networks. By the war's end, wood had become the primary heating fuel for many German civilians because nothing else remained available. The Soviet Union, Scandinavia, and Eastern Europe all confronted similar shortages that made every piece of fuel precious beyond modern imagination. Families with conventional metal stoves faced impossible choices: burn your entire fuel allocation in the first half of winter and freeze in the second half, or ration fuel so severely that you never actually get warm. The physics of metal stoves made efficiency impossible. Hot metal radiates heat rapidly, meaning the fire must burn continuously to maintain room temperature. Stop feeding the fire, and the room goes cold within hours. But families with traditional masonry heaters experienced something entirely different. One intense fire in the morning heated thousands of pounds of brick and stone to temperatures that remained comfortable to touch. That mass then radiated warmth steadily throughout the day and into the night, maintaining livable temperatures without any additional fuel, while neighbors with metal stoves shivered through the night. Families with masonry heaters slept warm under the gentle radiance of heat stored in brick. The technology that saved those families wasn't new or experimental. Masonry heaters had heated European homes for centuries before the war. The physics was well understood, the construction techniques refined over generations, and the fuel savings documented by anyone who compared the two approaches. What the war did was reveal under desperate conditions, which heating technology actually worked when fuel became scarce. Number 2, the physics of thermal mass. The difference between 2-hour heating and 24-hour heating comes down to a simple physics principle that modern heating systems have completely abandoned. Dense materials like brick, stone, and concrete absorb heat energy and store it within their mass. Once heated, these materials release that stored energy slowly through radiation, providing warmth long after the original fire has burned out. The technical term is specific heat capacity, which measures how much energy a material can absorb per unit of mass per degree of temperature increase. Brick holds approximately 0.84 kilojoules per kilogram per degree Kelvin. This might sound abstract, but the practical meaning is profound. A 2,000 kilogram masonry heater raised 65 degrees above room temperature stores over 100,000 kilojoules of energy. That energy has nowhere to go except slowly radiating into the room over the following 12 to 24 hours. Metal behaves completely differently. Steel has similar heat capacity to brick, but metal stoves weigh perhaps 50 kilograms rather than 2,000. The total energy storage capacity is roughly 40th of what masonry provides. More critically, metal conducts heat extremely efficiently, meaning whatever heat it absorbs reaches the surface and radiates away almost immediately. High surface temperatures accelerate heat loss dramatically, so a metal stove at 600 degrees Fahrenheit loses heat far faster than brick at 200 degrees. This explains the fundamental pattern that wartime families understood intuitively. Metal stoves get dangerously hot while burning, then go cold within hours after the fire dies. Masonry heaters reach comfortable surface temperatures that remain safe to touch. Then maintain those temperatures for an entire day because the massive heat reservoir depletes slowly rather than rapidly. The room doesn't know whether heat comes from a metal stove or a masonry heater. What the room knows is whether heat keeps arriving after the fire stops. With metal, it doesn't. With masonry, it does. That difference determines whether you wake up warm or wake up frozen when fuel runs short. Number 3. How masonry heaters capture and store heat. The engineering of traditional masonry heaters maximizes both combustion efficiency and heat capture through design principles refined over centuries. Unlike metal stoves that send most heat directly up the chimney, masonry heaters force hot gases through extended pathways that transfer energy to surrounding brick before exhaust reaches the outdoors. The contraflow design represents the most sophisticated approach to heat capture. Hot combustion gases rise from the firebox, then travel through a maze of channels that may extend 20 feet or more before reaching the chimney. At each turn, at each pass through a channel, heat transfers from gas to masonry. By the time exhaust exits the building, its temperature has dropped from over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit to perhaps 200 or 300. All that extracted heat now resides in the brick mass rather than floating uselessly into the atmosphere. Combustion itself operates differently in masonry heaters than in conventional stoves. The firebox is designed for intense, rapid burning at temperatures exceeding 1,100 degrees Fahrenheit. At these temperatures, volatile gases released from burning wood ignite completely rather than escaping as smoke. Creosote, the tarry residue that accumulates in chimneys and causes fires, barely forms because temperatures remain high enough to burn it. Combustion efficiency often exceeds 90%, meaning nearly all energy in the wood converts to heat rather than escaping as unburned fuel. A typical firing takes 1 to 3 hours and consumes 20 to 30 pounds of wood. This seems like modest fuel consumption because it is. The magic happens after the fire dies. Those 1,000+ pounds of brick now contain enough thermal energy to warm the room for the next 12 to 24 hours without any additional fuel. Families fired their masonry heaters once in the morning and once in the evening, using perhaps 40 to 50 pounds of wood daily to maintain comfortable temperatures around the clock. Compare this to conventional metal stoves requiring 50 to 100 pounds of wood daily with constant attention and still producing uncomfortable temperature swings between firings. Same house, same winter, dramatically different fuel consumption and comfort levels. Number 4. Regional traditions that survived the war. Different European regions developed distinct masonry heater traditions over centuries, each adapted to local climate, available materials, and cultural preferences. When wartime fuel shortages hit, families with these traditional heaters possessed advantages their neighbors with modern metal stoves could not match. The German Küchelofen, meaning tile oven, features a brick or masonry core covered with decorative ceramic tiles. These heaters often stood built into walls between rooms, allowing a single unit to warm multiple spaces simultaneously. The tiles provided not just decoration but additional thermal mass and radiation surface. German and Austrian homes with Küchelofens maintained warmth through winters when cold deliveries became sporadic or stopped entirely. Russian families relied on the pechka, a massive combination of stove, oven, and heating mass that often dominated the main room of traditional homes. The largest pechkas included raised sleeping platforms where family members could sleep directly on the warm masonry surface. Cooking, baking, and heating all happened from the same structure, maximizing utility from every piece of fuel burned. When German invasion disrupted fuel supplies, families with traditional pechkas possessed survival advantages that modern heating could not provide. Scandinavian countries developed their own refined designs suited to brutal northern winters. The Swedish Kakelugn featured tall, slender proportions that maximized radiation surface while minimizing floor space. Finnish masonry heaters often used soapstone, which holds heat even longer than brick. These designs evolved under conditions where fuel efficiency literally determined survival, producing heaters optimized over generations for maximum heat from minimum wood. The British tradition differed somewhat, with range cookers like the AGA providing thermal mass through heavy cast iron rather than masonry. These continuous burning cookers stored heat for cooking while also warming the kitchen. Traditional brick bread ovens similarly retained heat for hours after firing, baking multiple batches while also radiating warmth into adjacent rooms. Each tradition survived because it worked under conditions where failure meant freezing. Number 5. Why modern heating abandoned thermal mass. The shift away from thermal mass heating happened not because the physics stopped working, but because circumstances changed in ways that made convenience more valuable than efficiency. Understanding why modern heating abandoned these principles reveals what we sacrificed without realizing it. Post-war petroleum abundance transformed energy economics almost overnight. Fuel became so cheap that efficiency improvements couldn't justify their costs. Installing a furnace took hours, while building a masonry heater took weeks. The labor cost difference alone made furnaces attractive regardless of ongoing fuel consumption. When oil costs pennies, burning twice as much doesn't matter financially. Housing construction changed simultaneously. The post-war building boom emphasized speed above almost everything else. Tract homes went up in weeks using standardized designs and factory-produced components. Masonry heaters require custom construction by skilled craftsmen. Reinforced floors to support weights exceeding several thousand pounds, and design integration that cookie-cutter floor plans cannot accommodate. The technology that had heated homes for centuries simply didn't fit the new way houses got built. Central heating systems offered convenience that thermal mass could not match. Thermostats maintained exact temperatures automatically. Furnaces required no skill to operate. Fuel delivered by truck meant no wood splitting or fire tending. For families exhausted by wartime hardships, convenience represented luxury worth paying for. That ongoing fuel costs exceeded what masonry heaters would have required mattered little when fuel remained cheap. Building codes evolved around the new systems rather than the old ones. Inspectors understood furnaces and could evaluate installations quickly. Masonry heaters required specialized knowledge to inspect properly. Code compliance became easier with conventional systems, creating regulatory bias favoring the less efficient approach. Nobody made a deliberate decision to abandon thermal mass heating. 1,000 small decisions, each rational in isolation, accumulated into a complete transformation of how we heat our homes. Efficiency sacrificed for convenience. Independence sacrificed for ease. Long-term savings sacrificed for lower upfront costs. Number 6. The real cost of modern heating. The heating systems that replaced thermal mass technology carry costs that most homeowners never calculate fully. Energy bills represent only the most visible expense. Dependency, discomfort, and vulnerability create costs that don't appear on monthly statements but affect quality of life continuously. Modern forced air heating creates uncomfortable living conditions that occupants accept as normal only because they've never experienced the alternative. Warm air rises and stratifies, leaving floors cold while ceilings overheat. Blowers create drafts and noise. Dry air irritates respiratory systems and requires humidifiers to counteract. Temperature swings between cycles mean the house is either too warm or too cool, but rarely just right. This is what we accept as normal heating because we've forgotten what good heating actually feels like. Dependency on external systems creates vulnerability that masonry heater owners never face. Grid power failure stops your furnace regardless of fuel supply. Gas line disruption leaves you cold. Delivery delays during storms mean empty tanks at the worst possible time. Every component of modern heating depends on infrastructure beyond your control. And that infrastructure fails more often than most people admit until they experience it personally. The financial comparison between fuel costs is deceptive because it ignores system lifespan and maintenance requirements. Furnaces last 15 to 20 years before requiring replacement. Masonry heaters last 50 years or more with minimal maintenance. The higher upfront cost of masonry, construction amortizes across decades of service, while furnace replacement costs recur again and again. Most significantly, modern heating requires purchased fuel continuously, while masonry heaters can operate on wood harvested from your own property. For anyone with access to even a few acres of woodland, masonry heating offers genuine independence from energy markets and delivery systems. Your heating supply answers to no one except your willingness to cut and split wood. The wartime families who heated with masonry understood this independence viscerally. When coal stopped arriving, they still had warmth. Their neighbors with modern stoves did not. Number 7. Bringing thermal mass heating into the future. The physics that made masonry heaters effective during World War II hasn't changed. Brick still stores heat. Mass still radiates warmth slowly. Combustion efficiency still exceeds what metal stoves can achieve. What has changed is growing recognition that the convenience we traded for these benefits may not have been worth the price. Modern masonry heater construction has advanced significantly from wartime technology. Modular core systems allow faster installation while maintaining traditional efficiency advantages. Glass doors permit fire viewing that solid brick historically prevented. Integration with hydronic systems allows masonry heaters to feed radiant floor heating throughout the house. EPA-compliant designs satisfy modern emission standards while delivering the efficiency that drew people to masonry heating originally. Organizations like the Masonry Heater Association of North America train builders in both traditional and modern techniques. Annual conferences advance the craft while connecting homeowners with qualified installers. The knowledge that almost disappeared during the post-war shift to conventional heating is being reconstructed and expanded. Cost remains the primary obstacle for most interested homeowners. Custom masonry heaters typically run $15,000 to $30,000 installed. Far exceeding furnace installation costs, modular systems reduce costs somewhat but still require significant investment. However, operating costs over a 20-year period often favor masonry heaters, particularly for homeowners with wood access. The calculation depends heavily on local fuel prices, climate severity, and how much value you place on energy independence. The deeper question isn't whether masonry heaters make financial sense, it's whether we're willing to reconsider the trade-offs our grandparents' generation made under very different circumstances. They had cheap fuel and craved convenience after years of wartime hardship. We have expensive fuel, vulnerable infrastructure, and growing awareness that independence has value beyond what spreadsheets can calculate. One fire in the morning, warmth until midnight. The families who survived the war's worst winters knew this was possible because they lived it. The physics hasn't changed. Only our choices have changed. Thanks for watching.